Captain, incoming message.
It was the dawn of the third age of mankind. Groovy.
Hi-ho. This is me, Kermit the Frog.
Hello there.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Not a great plan.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hey there, we're those Sci-Fi guys. This is at Those Sci-Fi Guys show. Just two working dudes, different lives, different jobs, but a whole lot of love for science fiction and the fun that comes with. We are your hosts. I am P.S. McKay, and it's springtime. The sun is shining. The birds and the bees are trying to mate with each other for some reason. Good time.
And I'm DT Cavman, and I got more stitches than a baseball.
Yeah, you did. How much do you want to talk about it? Well, you already alluded to it, so you kind of have to finish that one.
Well, I had a few procedures in the last week. I had a double hernia surgery last Wednesday, which is why we didn't record then. And today I had a procedure on my ear. So if I look a little strange today,
you got
that'd
more
be
holes
why.
in a pincushion.
Yes, quite.
So
yeah, it was not fun. I will.
But you're alive.
Fun.
You're alive.
Yes.
Clean bill on the mend.
I am.
Everything's working.
I believe so. Yes.
Well, that's good. That's good because people don't want to hear me by myself. So
no, that is very true. We've learned that.
Yes. So, yeah. So we're getting a little bit of a late start, everybody. So we're just going to jump right into it. I didn't run this by you, but all right. So we're here to talk about Andor episodes 7 through 9. I also wanted to talk about the follow-up Rebels episode. Are you okay with that? Because you mentioned that you rewatched it. I decided to watch it.
I watched all of them while I was on recovery.
Yeah,
it wasn't. So, I knew I needed to get rest, and I had some stuff I needed to get taken care of before the surgery. So I was like, I'll do this now. When I'm laid up.
Yeah. So this is it. So it's 2 years before the Battle of Yavin. Things are weird in Gorman. The Empire has been systematically, making Gorman look bad to the rest of the Empire.
Well, they've been waging a propaganda campaign.
Yeah, sowing seeds of discontent among the rest of the Empire. Making them turn against Gorman. So when bad things happen at Gorman, they kind of had it coming, that kind of thing with the sentiment. So it's fascinating. We've talked about it before, about how the meeting about Gorman was very reminiscent of that movie Conspiracy that I talked about. But it also shows that the Empire, oh man, how can I say this? These three episodes, it really shows how evil the Empire really is. Like
it's not even space. It's not even like
not space wizards, not cartoony. Like I'm going to the dark side. No, this
is regular, everyday human being, oppressive dictator.
Mm-hmm. Innocence, innocent people, losing everything that they own or that they have in their lives or their lives just because the Empire needs these minerals to power the Death Star, basically. And I don't know, man, it just feels so much more insidious and scary to see this kind of this level of subterfuge that's being waged against this innocent people.
Well, it's so calculating, but also so casual. Right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, yes, we know that they're doing it because Krennic has kind of narrowed them down. Well, we need to use this mineral that's beneath the surface that they don't really know they have. And they suck. It's just so insidious, and it's so blatant. Like, they have fake news going on there, riling everybody up and blowing everything out of proportion. Peaceful protests get turned into, they're talking about riots. Well, and it's even worse than the fact not only are they manipulating their citizens, the whole reason they send Cyril there is to look for outside agitators. That's why, because they told him that there were outside agitators stirring this up. That's what he believes.
Yep. And
right?
so he's
like, well, I'm going to go serve the Empire by trying to dig this up.
I want to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing. I want to help these people. I want to help my country. I want to help the Empire. And I think that this will be good for me in the long run too. Like, he's an everyman, who wants to just get out of his mom's apartment in Coruscant, which, I would agree. I would want to get out there as soon as possible too. And so he's just doing what he thinks is right. There's no malevolence behind his actions, so to speak, in most circumstances. Like, he also thinks he's part of something bigger, which
he is.
I mean, if there's one thing that I need to say, like, every man, not every, but most young men, when they become adults, they want to be a part of something. They need to be a part of something because they need to matter. And
people want to, they want to matter, right?
Yes.
Everybody wants to feel like they matter. We have an impact. We're special, right?
Yep.
Most people want to get out there and go and say to the world, to the universe, I'm DT Cav Man, and I matter.
And I make a difference.
My choices matter.
Mm-hmm.
I through good or ill, the things I do can affect people. And generally most people want to do the right thing. Sure, most people want some money. They want to have a nice, place to live, friends, family. Even the people even introverts want loved ones. But it's just like, hey, I want. In some ways, Cyril is like almost screaming out to the universe at some points, like, I want to do something for the greater good, how he sees it, and I matter.
Yep.
And you start to see him in these 3 episodes really start to, his faith is starting to shake through this whole Orman arc.
These 3 episodes?
2. Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert, everybody.
Cyril takes a vacation.
But yes, absolutely. And I gotta say, as someone who I didn't like him initially in the first season.
You're not supposed to.
But then as
the
first season went along, I'm like, okay, I know, I understand where he's coming from. And then the second season comes along and it looks like, oh, he's doing well for himself. And oh, look at that. He's with Dedra. And hey, okay, things are really coming up his way. Oh, then he gets used by the Intelligence Security Board, or is
ISB.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's the Imperial Security, or I don't know, whatever.
Bureau. Imperial
Yeah.
Security Bureau, I believe.
Yeah. Acronyms, man, whatever. So he's here and he's on Gorman, and then he's told, like you said, to watch out for outside agitators that are causing all the Gorman's grief. I'm like, okay. And then he befriends the underground of the Gorman, or the Gore. And he gets involved with them, and he and that's about it. And then okay, so episode 7, things are dark in Gorman right now at this point. It's been a year since Cyril has been there, and there's curfews now. There's been mention of bombings left and right, and nice. And and things are cordoned off. Like there's controlled entrance into this main. I'll get to that. This main courtyard. This is the site of where Grand Moff Tarkin had massacred a whole bunch of Gorman several years back. And so I'm so sorry, audience.
Yeah, Tarkin landed his ship on like a bunch of protesters.
Yeah,
he basically had his Tiananmen Square.
Very much so. Oh, great! Now
by the way,
we're not going to be allowed in China. Thanks, man.
Take a look at this little picture, like down in the right-hand corner. It almost looks like that's a bunch of colonial redcoats.
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it?
But it must
be factory workers, the textile workers, or something.
Yeah, there's like a lot of browns for the people of Gorman, I think. By the way, yes, as more and more things came out, Gorman and the Gore resistance, the underground, was very much based off of the French resistance. And you can see it in their garb. They all wear beret. A lot of them wear beret-like hats.
Yeah.
And there are a substantial amount of French actors.
Well, that's the fun part. I looked up the language too. Oh, go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
Although in a fantastic irony, the old man who was first in charge of the underground, right?
Don't tell me he's Bavarian.
He did play a Nazi officer and Inglorious Bastards. I saw that. I'm like,
one role does not define someone's personality. Otherwise,
hey man,
the person who played Joffrey. Oh boy,
it just swings the other way. Well, that kid practically quit acting because of like hate mail.
He had to, because he was so good at what he did. That's it. You're so good at what you do, you fail. That's what happened there. And he didn't even fail. I don't want to disparage him. He was fantastic in that role. Anyway, off track.
Jack Gleason did a fantastic job. Kid's a hell of an actor. You really hated that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard to separate him from the character. It was that well done. The Gore language is based off of French. The linguist who created the language wanted to have something familiar to American audiences. So like the sing-songiness of it, the lilt to it. Some of the words sound very close to certain French words. I was sitting here leading up to this point. I'm sitting here like, God, it really sounds like they're speaking French, but I can't recognize a single word. And so I had to look it up. But yes, and plays well because French resistance. Hey, and they played that really well too. I mean, they had the underground radio control system.
They had, like, they were listening to it in the ears, like you're watching a World War II movie.
Mm-hmm.
The underground, the French resistance against this the Swan, the Germans.
Yes. So we see that. We come up and Cassian is now with Bix on Yavin, and Yavin's thriving. It's a fully functional base all of a sudden. These year jumps are interesting to me because
they can screw with you a little
bit. I feel like there would have been, I don't know. I mean, they were necessary jumps. Don't get me wrong. They're just a little jarring. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them stylistically. So, but they apparently Cassian has his own home, and he seems to be happy on Yavin. Yavin seems like a wonderful place to retire. Perfect climate, nice.
Except for those monsters that roam the forest.
Well, the giant rhino monsters. Yeah, I mean that could be a problem. So,
and the fact that the temples are haunted by the ghost of dead Sith, but that's okay.
Oh, are they? Or is that just the rumor?
No, that was from Legends. Now they've been bringing a lot of things back. Why there's so many, and there was sacrifices, human, like sentient being sacrifices, and that was the last stand of a ancient Sith Lord Exar Kun. Man,
okay,
that would be a good one. he came in right around the time of the Beast Wars of Andor. But that's a Legends rabbit hole to go down. That
we don't have time for that.
Time for. But I will tell you is that they have pulled more things from Legends.
Yeah,
where
good stuff.
There is, and I tell you, the writing in this, and if you go ahead and you strip out all the, this is a spy thriller / underdog story of a resistance against the Nazis, the Soviets, an oppressive imperium, right? So this whole thing, you have the scrappy underdogs who like earth tones, right? And the Imperials really only do black, white, gray. That's it.
Yes,
there's black and white. Even the shades of gray are severe, right? But it's very austere. You walk into an Imperial building, it's all very clear, clean, doesn't look lived in. You walk to these shops, you walk into these hotel rooms. I mean, and that's even it. When Cassian goes back to Gorman, the guy who was his bellhop is now a concierge.
Yeah,
right. You have your time jumps.
And I liked this kid. I liked him a lot. And he recognized Cassian too. Completely different.
And he kind of got the vibe during their initial meeting in the previous 3 episodes when Cassian asked him about the history of, the square and the Gorman, the first Gorman massacre.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentions that I think he said his father was killed in that, and he was a young boy, and Cassian kind of acknowledges sympathy, and of course he's all on his guys, but this guy remembers him from a year ago, and I think he knows.
I never would have. If I was that kid, I never would have recognized him, but that's my failing.
But he was probably used to so many stuck-up Imperials or self-absorbed textile people, off-worlders coming in and maybe just not giving a shit. And Cassian took notice and gave sympathy, right? And it stuck with this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. And Cassian's there because they got a tip that Dedra's there and they want to take her out.
This is all off book, by the way. At this point, Cassian has kind of fully integrated himself into more rebel command and is less working directly for Luthen.
Yeah.
And Cassian actually goes against the orders of General Draven, the guy from Rogue One who shows up again.
Yeah.
Now they start to tie more and more towards Rogue One, but you see him say, no, we'll be back shortly. We just got some shit to do. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Nothing shady's going on here.
No.
Woman didn't come and convince me to go do a hit. No, what? Who said that?
Yeah.
And Willman
shows up.
Willman wants Dedra dead because she
Right.
was responsible for Ferrix.
Yep.
The crackdown there. His father was killed. Bix was tortured.
Yep.
Even she, who gladly went in and took out her torturer, I think gave tacit approval to this.
Well, she kind of knew it had to be done.
I thought Bix was going to spiral into drug use. That's where I thought she was going.
Thought so too. And luckily that didn't happen. And I mean, fine.
We figured she was going to have to. I assumed that she was going to die because she's not there during Rogue One, right?
No, we all thought so. We all thought that she was going to punch that card out.
We still don't know. Her story is not yet finished based on the 3 episodes we've got here. But the fact of the matter is, she has kind of evened out. It's good to see it. But Cassian, and this is the first time that we see anything about Jedi, the Force, anything, is she convinces him to go see a Force healer.
Yeah, a Force healer. Did anything like that exist before Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, it was all in Legends, using the Force to heal. Okay. And yes, there are, when you start digging into like the expanded canon and whatnot, and like to how the Jedi Order during the Clone Wars and before was all set up, there were Jedi healers. It wasn't just throwing somebody in back to tanks. There were people using the Force to do it, but you never really saw it until The Mandalorian. Then they really built on it in Rise of Skywalker. But she's using her connection with the Force to, you have the baby do the magic hands. Come on, baby, do the magic hands, which was hysterical. I still laugh anytime I see that meme come up. And just he's like, me. He's like, oh, you're waving. I'll wave back like a little kid would do. But
the baby do
but it's more than just that. But that was the first time on screen you ever truly saw. Well, maybe not. Obi-Wan maybe did a little when he rescued Luke from the Tusken Raiders. See him bend down. He puts his hand on the kid's head.
That's
maybe very
possible. They
don't really talk about it. He uses, the Force to project the sound of a big predatory animal, which scares off crate dragon. And then he leans down and he almost like gives him a Vulcan nerve pitch to the face,
Come out, little one. Come out.
So maybe not, but that's the first time you've heard of a Force healer. Now, if you watched Tales of the Empire, when they follow Barriss Offee, one of the last things that she ends up doing at the end is when she realizes that the Empire is not what it's cracked up to be and everything, she kind of takes on the role as a Force healer as part of her atonement. And her original backstory before the Clone Wars series came out was that was that character's specialty, was a Force healer.
Interesting.
So Force healing it's there. It's just not been pulled to the front. So this is the first time. Could this woman have been a Jedi? Could she have been another Force user? I mean, we know there's other Force users, not Jedi and Sith, like the Witches of Dathomir. And clearly you're going to start seeing at some point other Force using cults somewhere. I mean, the Temple of the Wills, right? In Rogue One.
Yeah.
Well, what was Donnie Yen's character?
Oh,
I loved him too.
he is. He believed in the Force. Whether he had the Force or not was ambiguous, which was good. That was well played.
But even if he had Force abilities, he was not a Jedi. So,
right, and yeah, I mean, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, it was cool that they had a Force healer there, and that she had insight into Andor. And what does she tell him, that you're not where you need to be? Or I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to be on Scarif, waiting for the impending doom. That's where you're supposed to be. Yeah. A callous joke, but it was yeah. Off the book mission though, to try
Cassian's to going to be important to the rebellion.
Yeah,
basically what she told him is that,
and all that
your mission, you're here to help other people.
So he goes, he gets the room that's right over the courtyard, and he goes, excellent, that's what I wanted. And he's like, and the bellhop / concierge kid is like, well, not a lot of people like it nowadays because it's too loud. And he goes, well, it's a good thing I'm a sound sleeper. So
nobody likes that.
And all that comes of this is just this off the books mission is supposed to put Andor there. He is taking a vantage point to see where he could see from his balcony to maybe snipe Dedra. And he's looking, and then he hears like some telltale. And he's like, wait a minute. And then he gets a mirror out, points the mirror up above the balcony. 2 stormtroopers there. And he's like, oh, crap, I'm not going to be able to use this vantage point. Because he wants to get out, right? This isn't supposed to be a one-way trip. And that's the end of the first episode. The second episode, with episode 8.
Well, and remember, at all these times, you're bouncing back and forth between, the Imperials and what's got, you have Dedra is actually kind of in a bind too, because her boss sends like all these Imperial troops show up.
Yes. Oh yeah, the ground pounders. The new recruits, man. Oh, I'm gonna
watch green raw recruits. Yeah. And as I watch this, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, you saw it right away, huh?
They're gonna send these guys out. They're not well trained. Mm-hmm. They're not giving them a chance to train. They're running this through. And these guys they're going to send out when the crowd is at their most volatile. And one of these guys it's going to be like the Boston Massacre.
Yep.
And somebody's going to open fire. And then that is the match that is going to set off this tinder box. That is their plan. They're going to send these raw recruits out into an agitated crowd that they're whipping up with propaganda and with serials, going in and out and all this stuff and all these things where they're kind of hiding but not hiding the mining crews that they're dropping that they're not supposed to. The fact that they had an agreement with the Empire years ago that there would be no building that would like cover the square and obstruct the memorial, and the Empire did this just purely to do this, and all they're doing is forcing the Gore to walk right into their plans because they want these people to revolt. They want these people to be seen as ungrateful bastards, agitators, and insolent rebels. And so the Empire can go in, squash them without riling up the rest of the galaxy, brutally oppressing them, and then taking whatever they want. That's what it is. This is this is psyops. This is psychological operations. This is going in and changing the mindset of a populace in a very sinister way. And this is all propaganda. This is stuff the Nazis did. All these it's the
CIA.
heavy-hitted. Of course, the CIA.
That's what they did to Ukraine in 2014.
Oh well, we whipped up a lot of things over the years.
Yeah, we did.
But you put out, there's messaging and counter messaging. There's clearly counterintelligence operations going on. They know that if they start stirring up the people in Gorman, then outside agitators will come in, and it will just continue. Like Cassian and those guys, they're just kind of walking right into the Empire's plan.
And the older guy, the head of the resistance there, used the term, "It's a trap." He said it. He said it. I'm like, well, someone needed to say it. But how systematic was it that the Empire was like, okay, so now that they're coming out, we're gonna start pulling back our barriers here. We're gonna pull back the barriers. Every single Imperial worker or attaché or
employee
needs to come to the main office now. And so Cyril is walking through, and but he gets accosted by the old guy who's like telling everyone, no, don't go out there. That's exactly what they want. And I don't know his name. But he basically grabs Cyril and says, this was all your fault. And I forget what the connection was that made him realize that he was being played. That he realized Cyril
Caro Rylance is the
Caro.
Gorman rebel leader. So
basically, I don't have a good screenshot of the two of them, by the way.
Basically, what this guy starts to figure out is there's only certain ways this guy would know.
Yeah.
He's an elected official. He runs one of the big textile galleries and whatnot. So he's like a well-known dude, right? But he's also leading this group. But he kind of starts to understand how this guy. He's like, oh, you know what? I think this guy's an actual plant. I really think that this guy, he might be feeding information to the Empire. If nothing else, this guy's not one of us. And for now that this guy is like pulling us aside and they pull him aside and he's like, no, you had all this information.
Yeah. You're the one that gave it all away.
Yeah.
And Cyril's like, wait, no, it's outside agitators. And so he walks away like really shaken. He walks through the square, the courtyard, and makes his way to while all the Gore are singing, "We are Gore."
We are the Gore.
Yeah, we are the Gore.
And then
this lady in the front, I liked her. I liked the lady in the back. I liked her. I think she survives. Does she not?
She doesn't.
The one in the front doesn't. Most certainly does not. That's a brutal death. Good Lord, that was unnecessarily necessary to show.
So everything starts to spiral out of control, right?
Yeah,
Cassian
because all the
has
crowd's
put together
gathering.
a sniper. Right.
Yeah.
And every time he gets a clear shot at Dedra, or he's about to pull the trigger, either something happens in the crowd or something pulls her away. Because he gets her in his sights like half a dozen times.
Yeah.
Willman is now involved with one of these resistance members. And that's another reason why he's so hell-bent on doing this. Cyril realizes as he's sitting in this room with a bunch of scared Imperials and all of these KX droids, it's like,
oh, I got it.
Man.
Nope, that's not it. Damn it.
Yeah. Cyril starts to realize that, like, this is something's not right here, right? Like, yeah.
Was this not creepy as hell? Was this not creepy? This droid is looking straight at Cyril, and he's not deviating.
He's looking through. He's basically looking through Cyril.
Right. And so Cyril's like, this isn't right. Something's off.
Yeah.
Something's off.
He realized that he's enabling the Empire to. He knows that the Empire is about to kill a lot of people, and that it's everything he's seen for the last year is basically just been people from Gorman, the Gore. He's not seeing outside agitators, you know, and so he has a straight up like snaps.
He snaps.
He snaps.
I don't have a shot of it. I'm trying to find it
in this movie. In this episode, he has 2 near psychotic breaks. The first is when he realizes what happens and he wraps both hands around Tetra's neck. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Dude, you're not the dom in this relationship.
Hold on. I'm gonna be able to share this because it has to be shared. So let me see.
It was just so cold fury. Not like,
oh, absolutely,
not screaming, but like this cold fury. And she's realizing, like everything's just like hitting her like a ton of bricks. Like, you know, it's like, oh no. We may have overplayed this hand. Just a tad.
just a tad. And here we are. This is it. Can you hear it?
Nope.
Of course you can't hear it. Why could you not hear it? Like, well, this is what I wanted to share. Here we go. Right here. There it is. Just, first of all, Cyril, not a violent guy. Not at all. And you're absolutely right. He snaps. And this is
look at the juxtaposition too.
Right.
His head's pressed up against her so much that his nose is squishing in.
Yeah.
Because this is a woman like he's like head over heels for her.
Yeah, he loves her. He loves her. She loves him.
She does, but she just loves the Empire more.
Her ambitions are a bit more, yes.
and this is where she realized this guy's not. This guy's over the edge now. He's off the reservation. He's beyond the pale, and she's like, he may fucking kill me.
Yeah.
Like, and this is, and if you look like he's not a huge dude. But he's got some good sized hands. Look at it.
Yeah, those hands, man. It was scary to watch. It was a shock, and everything about Cyril is now crashing down as he goes, "Did you know?" And she says, "Yes." And how long? And the last 2 years, and he's and mentally it breaks him. It destroys him. He was a tool. And she was willing to use him as a tool, and he didn't like what was happening. So what does this asshole do? he decides it's a good idea to go back out and try to, I don't know what his thoughts were, but he goes back out into the courtyard. And
here's the fun part. He's out there when chaos erupts, and like it all goes around him. Like the plot armor was really hard in this one. Like he didn't even get like scratched until he bumps into Cassian, and that's it. And that's when he loses his fucking mind. Finally, and to be honest with you, I was a little shocked at just how violent Cyril became, and how he got the upper hand on a trained soldier and assassin. Again, this guy was at the end of his rope. Like,
he was at the end of his rope, so he's basically on meth practically. And Andor is Cassian still he's on his heels. Like, he doesn't know this guy. He doesn't recognize him. He doesn't know to be on guard of this guy. He's looking out for the Imperials that are out there, the stormtroopers and the ground pounders. What are they? What would you call them? The troops. They're not.
They're infantry.
They're infantry. The infantry, and Cyril beats the living hell.
In fairness, they beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, as is evidenced here, where Cyril.
But to be honest with you, it might. I mean, I thought he was gone when the bomb went off right by the building, because he was right there by the door, and Cassian was not. You know, he saw it coming. He started moving, and Cyril took this blast full on. I mean, this could be just the fact of the rage and the adrenaline. But I mean, had he killed Cassian and not been killed himself, I don't think he lives beyond that.
No,
just the internal damage alone.
Probably not.
So
probably.
I mean, and that could have also been how Cassian got a little caught flat-footed there. It's like, there's no way this guy's getting. Holy shit, this guy got up.
Yeah. And what was the kicker at the very end, right here at this scene? What is it that Andor says that destroys Cyril and gives him pause? By the way, he could have had Andor. He could have annihilated him. But what does Andor say?
The Axis. Right? Isn't this Axis the plan that both he and Dedra were on? This was the guy he's been chasing for years. He's Jean Valjean, or excuse me, he's Javert chasing Jean Valjean. But Jean Valjean doesn't even know who he is.
Yeah, he's like,
talk about some more French stuff.
I don't even know
who are you.
Who are you? And he just
That's the name of the episode.
Yeah, who are you? That's right. I was thinking of Thanos going, I don't even know who you are. But this is more powerful than that.
And I've seen that meme too, where they've just put Cyril's face on Scarlet Witch and Cassian's face on Thanos.
Oh,
and it's just, and then it's Rylands, the Resistance leader, who just not standard Star Wars, blaster to the chest. No, just almost like sniper style, almost like a assassin style pistol right to the dome. Just boom. Toast.
Like split seconds before that hit to the right temple.
Yeah.
And Cyril is no more. And I was actually sad. I was sad.
Me too. Especially after watching him crumble.
Yeah. So that happens, and I wanted to show this. This is the spark right here. So I have some notes. I said
the Imperial sniper shot their own guy.
Men. Yeah. So this, first of all, Sergeant was ordered to take his men out to try to, crowd control, and Sergeant doesn't want to go out there. And then
not with them.
He so much doesn't want to go out there. He actually has his men lead him out there. I don't know if that's the right. I mean, that goes to show the kind of man that the sergeant is.
No, it's not that. He knows what's about to happen, and it was taking everything in his power to be able to go out there, right? Like he's like,
okay, you're giving him a lot of credit for this, and that's plausible. That wasn't something that crossed
if
my
you
mind.
Watch him right when they first arrive, he tells the captain straight up, "These kids are green. They're not ready for anything."
Hardly.
And all this guy snaps at is, "Am I going to have a problem with you?" No, sir, no problem.
Yeah.
And he makes protests in this episode. They're not ready to go out. This patrol, and look, everybody wants to say lead from the front. His spot is in the middle for command and control.
Okay.
That is where his position is supposed to be.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
So that's
it's for command and control.
From a civilian's point of view, it doesn't look like that, but that makes sense.
Yes. No.
So
the whole thing of charging at the head. Yeah. You want to know why so many colonels and generals and whatnot get killed in like the Revolution, the Civil War? Because leading from the front is a fine idea, but leading from the front really in a lot of ways also means being at the front, but like really you're in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So like me as a company commander, I'm not like the first tank out the door, right? I'm in the middle directing, and really I'm adding my tank's firepower to the attack, but I'm not like charging out in front, or even if I'm on the ground infantry wise, you've got to be somewhere centralized where you can direct the fight. Like I'm not hiding in a bunker 2 miles away. I'm up on the front lines, but I'm not like standing out like waving a sword. This isn't, this we're talking about why the Jedi maybe weren't the best leaders. Well, okay. They were basically superhuman with magic powers and a weapon that does reflect blaster bolts back at you, but really a leader that's where that guy should have been, in the middle. He has as many guys in front of him as he has behind him. He can spread them out. He can contact, move, shift. That's where he was supposed to be.
And these poor young men were they were fodder.
They were cannon fodder, just like all the Gorman, all the Gore. They were that's all there was. It was everybody who was in that plaza, Imperial or the civilians, were expendable. Protesters, freedom fighters, Imperial recruits, the sergeant who probably has 20 years of service, both in the Empire and maybe in a security force before that. Guy looked like he'd been around a while. Clearly experienced enough to know that these guys you don't want these guys out there. Oh, and by the way, the stormtroopers had already closed off most of the entrances to this town square, or whatever they want to call it, the plaza. They bottled them in. That's not how, like when you have law enforcement around protests, unless it's already gotten violent, you're not like staging dudes like directly behind them with rifles pointing in. You know what that's called? A massacre. That's just a war crime waiting to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
that's what it was.
And the thing about this, the thing that is so gross and disgusting that makes the Empire so evil is they did this false flag operation where they shot their own man in the head.
They did.
Because and again, it's to incite the idea, oh, we're under attack. Oh, and the Gorman did it. And oh, we need to quell this now. And it's like, oh, it's so, I mean, great writing.
And I think Cassian actually clocked. I think Cassian clocked the sniper and saw. I think I thought somebody saw him, but couldn't do anything about it. But the sniper hit this soldier, killed him, and then the other young guys start opening fire, and then the resistance members in the crowd who have a few weapons taken, then it's just a free-for-all because the stormtroopers start rushing in, and then they're throwing Molotov cocktails and grenades, and it becomes a free-for-all, and people are getting trampled, and people are fighting hand to hand, and then they're like, all right, let's slip the dogs of war, and they send out these battle droids on steroids, the KX droids, who come out and they're not even like shooting people like a battle droid. No, they're like brutalizing people,
throwing them around. This poor woman in the front got picked up thrown at least 100 yards into a wall, and then she falls down ragdoll. And we get another shot of her face where her eyes are still open, but she's clearly gone. Just scary.
And the worst part about this too is the Gorman are out there and they're protesting, and they're rightfully upset, and they're chanting "We are the Gore" in their language, and then the old guy, who definitely looks like the scruffy tavern keeper, who's also a resistance cell leader from World War II, over there on the left, starts singing what must be their national anthem. And then they all start singing, and it changes from the chant to this haunting melody about the valleys and mountains of their homeland and everything. And it's beautiful because, as the audience knows, they're all going to die. Yep. You're just looking and you're like, oh, that's so nice. And it's a peaceful protest kind of, but they're all going to die horribly. Look. And stormtroopers are hitting people. They're shooting and they're killing people on purpose.
Yep.
It turns into a straight up slaughter. It is absolutely horrible.
And it's
so brutal to watch.
For some reason, I am not
gory, aside from the fact that most of the people there are literally the Gore, but not.
Right.
It's Star Wars violence. Even when they chop people's heads off, everything's cauterized and not blood everywhere.
Right. So I want to share the potential of what these security droids can do. And this is a real life humanoid robot that malfunctioned in China recently. And this goes to
what a
show,
surprise.
I know. So here that sounds good.
Is it shooting COVID out at people?
Wow. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. Here we go. This is how scary it is. What these things can do. Just instant concussion if you get hit in the head by this. Definitely a broken nose.
Wasn't that the dance scene from episode 3?
Possibly. Possibly. So, but that's the damage that all those things can do. And yeah, it's just insane. Like, just insane.
And this just boils down. It turns into a literal slaughter. There's hundreds of bodies all over the place. Most of them Gorman, but there are, a few Gore who are armed, and some who've taken weapons off of, Imperials and are trying to fight back, and basically mostly just trying to escape, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of people pinned down. They're getting killed, and the people who aren't outright being blasted are now being brutalized and ragdolled and whatnot by these KX enforcer droids. And they're trying to figure out, like, they can't shoot it, not with at least hand blasters. They need heavy blasters. But they Cassian and company, they're being tracked down before somebody slams into it with an armored truck.
Yeah, and that worked.
Bisects it. Oh, okay, let's do that.
And there's your K2SO right here.
Only because K2SO is in Rogue One is the only reason why
he wanted to save that thing.
We
need to bring this thing.
That's the only thing that's just a little ham-fisted. Like, dude, you really need to get the hell out of here. Now, look, I can understand, like, if there's not one and you're studying it, and considering how many times they repainted Chopper in Rebels so he could infiltrate the Empire's bases.
Yeah.
I get it. And having a tactical droid like that is an advantage, but in a situation like that, you'd almost be like, gotta move. But still, it didn't really take me out of it after considering it. Clearly we've got to get K2SO here at some point, right? It's not
Yeah.
going to just show off screen. But so yeah, they do take it. He asked Willman one more favor. Hey, could you help me load this shit, and I'll slowly drive out
Yeah.
of the city in this armored vehicle. But Will's like, I gotta stay because his girlfriend managed to escape.
Yeah, and we saw that quiet quiet development between the two of them.
But he also, the point was that they're both trying to make sure that the message gets out. Like Cassian needs to get off world so he can spread it, but Willman, they have the radio too, and they're trying to broadcast it as well to try to prevent the Empire from telling the one story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Dedra kind of has a breakdown because you basically assume, the chief assumes that that Cyril's dead. He walks out into this mess and realizes that she basically sent him to his death, and that his mother is like sitting with her friends as the propaganda newscaster, like, and the thousands of agitators have been killed, and the hundreds of Imperials have been killed, and the death toll is rising. And then, the news outlets are like, outside rebel agitators and the Gorman resistance and all this, and basically just shitting on these people.
Mm-hmm.
And then they skip forward, I don't know, a day or two.
One day.
Mothma,
just one day. We're now back on Coruscant, and the senators are panicking. Mon Mothma is talking to Bail, and she's like,
they haul the Gorman senator out.
Yeah, they arrest.
They expel him.
Yeah,
they expel him from the Senate, and they arrest him. And like he's yelling, like, somebody has to do something. Why aren't you helping me?
Mm-hmm.
This. He's like saying, well, you could be next, and everybody else is turning their heads basically, except for Bail and Mon. And you're like, dude. I know you guys are the head of the rebels, but turn your head, man. Turn your head. Turn your fucking head, man.
Yup.
You've got movies to be in. You've got a daughter to get on her way. She's not ready yet.
That's it.
By the way, Benjamin Bratt has been a nice addition as Bail Organa. He definitely feels like it's almost like you're seeing a different side of the Bail Organa that we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
But it still feels like the same guy. And what I loved about this episode is that he's not hugely in it. It's not focused on him. It's mostly about Mon Mothma, but now you know why he's there and why he's not at Yavin when the Empire comes knocking, right?
Even though he technically is on Yavin in the Rebels episode that follows up.
He eventually ends up on Yavin, and yeah, he's even on Yavin at times during Rogue One, but you get to see this is his sacrifice. He basically knowingly becomes a hostage. He's like, one of us we both can't leave. One of us still has to stay inside. Yeah, that was a really great conversation. Okay.
That was really good.
This show has been so good. The acting has been so excellent. The writing has been so excellent that when they don't win any Emmys, because it's all these jackasses never give this to, sci-fi shit most of the time.
No.
It'll be a huge crime. This is some of the best acting I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, some of the best writing that's out there too.
It's some of the best writing I've seen in years. Yeah. And and the best part about it is it's very little is fan servicey. Yeah, they're connecting the dots and they're building it, they're showing the connective tissue, but there's not like it's not super Easter egg heavy.
No.
But and that's okay in your more sci-fi fantasy stuff. This is very much, and people might laugh, but this is a lot like Clone Wars. Just
yeah.
If you spread, Clone Wars and Bad Batch, if you took all those great episodes and you fleshed them out a little longer and, made them live action, this is that level of, and even beyond, really, because they still kind of had to tone it back just a bit.
Yes.
Comparatively. I mean, people, you say that, but there was some extremely brutal moments in the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They just didn't show the blood. But
right.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
this is wild, and this is basically, this episode is Mon Mothma's wild ride. Okay,
yeah,
that could replace Mr. Toad at Disney World.
I had to watch this twice because I had a hard time understanding why Cassian was there when Bale already had a team going, and then I on rewatch I realized Luthen went to Cassian and said Bale's team has been compromised, and you're the one I can trust to get her out of there. And yeah, we saw that.
Which you're like, is it really though? Because the longer you watch the show, the more you wonder if Luthen is losing himself the way Saw is.
Plausible. I mean, Luthen's definitely a Moses character.
He's very ruthless.
He's well, I mean, I wasn't going to say ruthless, but yes, he absolutely is ruthless. But my point in comparing him to Moses is that he's doing all this work and he's never going to get to the promised land. And he said that.
That's what the operative said in the movie Serenity. I'm not going to be able to live in this new world I'm trying to build. But even still and that's the tragedy of a soldier in a lot of ways too. Mm-hmm. You go and you fight for these things. There's these brutal things that you see that you may have to do. And maybe you don't get to live in the paradise. Oh, sure, you might survive, but you don't get to live in that promised land because a lot of you is still living in these moments.
Right.
But this is where in the end, every episode ratchets it up. You're like, oh, they blew the doors off in episode 8. How are they going to ratchet episode 8 up?
A suspense thriller.
It was very suspense thriller. There was enough action to keep you moving, but it wasn't. It was a different type.
Yeah. So Mon Mothma gives her speech, and in that
everybody's
speech,
telling her not to.
Right, but she says, "I have to do it." And in that speech, she just outrightly calls the Emperor evil. And this action was because of him that happened on Gorman. And at that point, the speech is over. She needs to get extracted as soon as possible.
And she and Bale have already discussed, if I say this, I'm done. I've got to go.
Right.
And that's when she and Bale have that great conversation. You're right. You've got to go. I can't go with you.
Not yet.
What you realize is Mon's not just fleeing the Empire. She's not taking her family with her. As soon as she says this, she can't get to her family.
No.
She can't. So she's leaving her family. Bale, while he's kind of protecting his by not outwardly speaking, is working on the inside, and that is just as dangerous.
Yeah.
Because we see half the things that start setting the wheels in motion is that she discovers the bug in her office because Bale tips her off, but she does the old-fashioned stomps on the listening device.
I know.
And
I know.
And where is
I wrote in my notes, probably shouldn't have done that.
Well, but again, if like Luthen or somebody else was in there, would have said, don't leave it on. You don't want to let them know that we know.
Right.
That is somebody who's not used to this level and panicked. And that's what really starts setting this up. Oh, we were already going 75 miles an hour. Now we're up to 85. Okay. She gives the speech
right there.
And now you've got two groups of people who are going to extract her, and you wonder, is it going to go badly where they're going to open fire on each other? And did Luthen, was he telling the truth? Is Bale's crew really compromised? Because you don't know. He will misdirect. That's one of the reasons why Cassian's had issues with him all season.
Yeah.
And turns out his intel was right. I don't know if he actually knew it or if he was just throwing shade to try to get it. But, this collection group, 3 operatives that were supposed to escort her, one takes out one and the other one's like, oh, I didn't see him. I thought he was with you. No, he wasn't with me. Yeah. She makes this speech because, and by the way, she was not able to get on the floor, but Bail Organa uses some protocol bullshit, which I liked because it's like, oh.
Good misdirection there.
It was, and it also shows he's the guy to be in there playing from within the system.
Yeah.
Because then he was able to yield the floor to her, and they all were going to try to block her and possibly him. They were trying to block. They had already known that there were several senators that they didn't want speaking, and she was lead among them because she was considered the bleeding heart. And she lets loose this fantastic monologue. Luthen had the great monologue in season 1. She had the great monologue of season 2.
I mean, the speech itself served its purpose. Good on you if you liked it. I found it okay. I found it serviceable. The Luthen speech, though, in season 1, that was just unparalleled.
But in a lot of ways, you also have to understand, like, he could have that level of brutal honesty there because it's just him and this one guy in this back room.
Yeah.
She's a senator who's trying to make this point in the Imperial Senate. You start taking this and knowing that she's doing it to deaf ears, scared ears who aren't going to help you, Yeah. And she's painting a target on her back. Whether or not the speech itself was to the literary equal, the magnitude behind it makes it better. Makes it better than the sum of its parts, right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
The magnitude of it and the camera work zooming in on her facial inflections, her vocal inflections, the reaction shots was a great scene.
Yep. And then
all this,
the race against time to get her out. Yep. And then as it turns out, we see she's the mole in Bale's team that's trying to extract her.
Yep.
And she kills one of the teammates. So
yep.
Cassian convinces her to go with him because he says, I have friends everywhere.
Which is
that's the code word.
And you can tell she's skeptical. She's still not 100% because she trusts Bail Organa with her life. And he is a trustworthy guy.
But then they get confronted by Bale's team. And
this, by the way, and what makes that scene great is that despite the fact that she had already fired her aide because he was basically in Luthen's employ,
right,
and like kicked him out immediately, he still comes back and is still helping her. And it's his misdirection to the ISB agent that enables Cassian to just put one through her skull in this standoff.
It's a rebel spy.
Calls her the rebel spy. She turns and takes her attention to this unknown source, and she takes one in the face.
Yeah.
You just hear Rob Riggle yelling, in the face.
Yeah.
And Mon
That's a rough
Mothma,
cut.
she gets that twice.
Yeah, because her driver has been like sitting in. He's listless because he's like, well, she hasn't come out of her office all night.
She's an imperial. He's an imperial plant too.
He's an imperial plant.
Just know it.
Assignment. Well, you see the gun. You see the blaster sitting in the passenger seat, and he's like looking at it, and like knowing that he has to use it. But things are going off kilter, so he's surprised. So he gets out. He's
agitated,
her, and he sees her. Cassian just drops him, like, and that's Mon Mothma's second moment where things are getting real.
And she and her aide had a conversation. If it wasn't in this episode, it was in an earlier one where they know that this guy's a spy for him. And he's like, well, should we dismiss him? She's like, no, if we do, they might actually send somebody competent. So they know that this guy's a spy, and they just realize he's just not a good one.
Yeah.
So clearly, this just proves the point because he goes running without his gun. And what happens? He takes one in the chest.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think Mon Mothma's like, that's my driver. I think he works. He's like, I think she calls him out as works for the IEB, and he's like, what's his name? And he calls out his name, and he's like, huh? Boom. Just that 1 second. Not like the guy could have done anything anyway. He left his pistol in the car. And by the way, that Senate building is supposed to be enormous. They must have run miles.
I know,
because they were trying to go to the loading dock, and then they doubled back, and they're going downstairs. And
I thought about that.
Like,
I thought about that.
That's a
lot of walking. That's a lot of walking.
Run walking, which is even more painful.
It's much more painful, yes. And they get to the safe house that we saw Cassian and Bix at in episodes 4 through 6. And cool.
So I saw something online here, because when we get to this point, he has an interaction with Luthen's second in command, Clea, right? He has an interaction with Clea. Now, he had an interaction with Clea at the beginning where he's like, I'm done, I want out. And she and him, they kind of had an argument, and she kind of called him out on, oh, you just think you can walk away. I was like, oh, so great that the rest of us can. He's like, I've seen. And then she sees him. He's come through, even going against this plan that he didn't want to do. And she's like, her demeanor's changed. And I've seen a fan theory floated around that this Clea might be Cassian's long lost sister, who he was looking for.
Oh.
Because there was a very human moment with her, like how she looked at him, how she spoke to him. It was close. It was warm.
Yep.
And not something that you'd seen out of her before. She's very, I wouldn't say rigid. She's extremely dedicated. She's hard. So that would be interesting because they made a big deal out of it in the first couple episodes of season 1. That's one of the reasons why he was off-world and got in trouble with the police in the first place. So it'd be an interesting fan theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but that interaction was a little, I'm not going to say out of character, but it definitely wasn't what we were used to seeing in their interactions.
Yeah. I agree. It'll be interesting if that works out. Because I was thinking about the whole sister storyline.
How it felt like it went nowhere after a while.
Yeah, it just kind of went away. Like they planted that seed in the first episode, and then they're like, not going to reassess that at all or revisit that in any way.
Except for the flashbacks to him as a kid.
Yeah, but
was this just to show you how he met Marva?
I don't know.
But this episode had it was like Return of the King. Every time you thought, oh, well, we're done. Blip. In fact, when I was watching on Disney Plus, somewhere around where there was like 5 or 6 minutes left in the episode of actual runtime, not the whole of the actual viewing time, not all the, because oh my God, these episodes are like 57 minutes, but it's only like they have like 10 minutes of credits in these.
Well, I mean, they have to give credits all the foreign language dubs and stuff that they do.
I guess but it's just so long. But anyway,
it is.
But it's like, okay, I'm like, I started getting like, why does it say next episode? This is episode 9. But then it was just like, it's like Disney Plus doesn't even know how long this episode is.
Yeah.
But we get to the end, right? And he's back on Yavin. And they do throw some lines of dialogue in here. It's like, okay, you're not taking Mon all the way in. We're going to link her up with Gold Squadron and some other people, and she's going to go in that way, and she's going to speak again. So then it doesn't break canon where the Ghost crew brought her in because she was on a transport ship that they were supposed to refuel, and this starts tying in where it starts to become starts to link up concurrently with this episode of Rebels.
Yeah.
Which
and
episode 9 basically goes right into Rebels, which was nice because it doesn't shit on the work that came before, which you sometimes wonder, particularly with people like the guys who did, Andor were like, do we need to be tied to this speech that she gave in Rebels? And they're like, no. So they threw in like a line of dialogue that she's going to speak again, which she does
to broadcast to the entire empire.
Yeah, and she broadcasted out to the various rebel cells, which a lot of them link up. And that's kind of where the Rebel Alliance really starts to build, because they were all just cells, and now they start becoming more cohesive.
Yeah. And this episode of Rebels was actually pretty fun. It was a nice cat and mouse chase sequence, and 2 Star Destroyers were involved in recovering Mon Mothma, which shows how much Palpatine wanted her.
She was basically public enemy number 1.
Uh-huh. And it wasn't just her getting away with Orange Squad or whatever. Was it?
It was Gold Squadron.
Gold Squad. Was it just her? Squadron. Thank you. I know Orange doesn't fall off the tongue that well. It wasn't her just getting away with Gold Squad. It was they were being chased and they were still being pursued. So I thought that was interesting. It was a fun little thing to be able to just go into this episode after episode 9.
Yeah, she stays on Coruscant, and Luthen's going to get her out and have a more, I guess you might say, military arrival. It almost seems a little more official.
Mm-hmm.
To position herself with Yavin's rebels, while Cassian. And by the way, when they get to the safe house, they find that Willman and his girlfriend Drina have shown up on Coruscant.
Oh yeah,
he's wounded, but they managed to get off. So Cassian takes them, and they go to Yavin, and that's when Cassian decides that he wants to leave and start over with Bix. He tells her that he's done. He sleeps, he wakes up, and she's left him a message saying that he's got to stay with the rebellion to, he's got to get him to victory, but she needs to go her own way, and she'll find him once the rebellion's over.
Well, she knows that she's the reason he wants out.
Yes.
And she doesn't want to be that. She doesn't want to be the chain that takes him out of what he needs to do.
And with what she's seen and then what she heard from the Force healer, that he's key to the rebellion and that this is kind of where he needs to be. And she knows that this is kind of where he needs to be anyway, just because of all the things he's done and how successful he's done, and how even Draven called him out we want you to be promoted. We want you to be a leader. You know, you have what it takes. You're more than just a soldier. You're a leader. And so she removes this chunk of doubt by going off on her own. And she leaves a heartfelt message via video on his iPad. And that's basically kind of how it ends, for the most part, except
sadly.
for, yes, it does. I mean, he does go running to the airfield to try to see if he can catch the transport, but it left hours ago. And somebody yells him in. He's like, "Hey, they're ready to turn on the droid." So there's a whole squadron of troopers with heavy blasters aiming at this thing. It's like, "Are you sure?" "Well, we'll see. It's not like a straight reboot, or it's not like you can just change the lines of code, so to speak." And
no,
well, they fire it back up, and he's like, "Hello, I am K2SO, human cyborg relations."
He didn't say that, but yeah, nice callback. He does make some quippy remark like, about you can take those guns off me at any time now, or point those away. So
yeah,
and that's how it ends. Fun, but not. These were hard episodes to.
They were hard
very
episodes.
well, but they were hard episodes to endure.
They were. And then when you watch that episode of Rebels and you realize Rebels had some very hard moments too. And you're like,
show was for kids. It was so for kids. There was such a dichotomy in tone when you go from this to that.
Did you watch that episode?
The Secret Cargo? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a good episode.
Yeah, it was.
And you're right.
Ezra
there
got
is
to prove himself.
Yes, there is a distinction. And at this point, you're also seeing like the various rebel cells aren't quite getting along because they each do things differently. Like when the gold pilots show up to refuel, and one of the pilots is giving them shit. It's like, "You're making it hard on the rest of us." And Seb's like,
"Yeah,
we blew up Tarkin's Star Destroyer. What the fuck do you want us to do?" It's like, so they kind of squabble a little, and that is supposed to be the same gold leader from A New Hope. And you notice how a lot of the call signs that got wiped out were like call signs,
Mm-hmm.
But they lost the transport ship. They lost, I think, 2 pilots, maybe 3 pilots of Gold Squadron, by the TIE Defender, which is a pretty scary ship.
Yeah. First time we saw it on screen, outside of a video game.
We'd seen it earlier in the season, I believe. But this was the first time the wider Rebel Alliance got to see these things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's Star Wars, like exploding ships. You don't see bodies, stuff like that. But, the Rebels took a beating on that.
Yeah. It was not without
half
cost.
Their forces. And, the Ghost was jacked up because they had to fly too close to these emerging stars in the nebula just to try to defeat this almost unstoppable fighter. And they did. They came out of it. They had to use some chicanery and some Disney technology to make it work. It was very Star Trek, actually.
It was a little, yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
I've seen that. I've seen that move done several times on episodes of Star Trek.
Yes, ignite the nebula.
Ignite the surface of the sun and cause a solar flare.
Closing remarks. I really liked these 3 episodes. I think they were exceptionally well done, exceptionally well shot, exceptionally well paced. Whereas the first 3 episodes of this season were very clunky and a little weird. And I said,
good, but
Cassian
they were
didn't even
clunky.
need to be in any of those. But this was a very well done story arc. Here's the kicker. I'm excited to see what happens when the new episodes drop tomorrow. But I've heard that episode 11 just completely fucks everything up. So, and that's unfortunately, I have to watch All Guarded now. I have to watch All Guarded, and if it works out, fine, and I'm, and it's still good. Okay, great, happy, but I'm going to be guarded the whole time.
Well, the last 3 episodes were so fantastic that I worried when I finished. I'm like, where are they going to land this? Because the first 3 episodes were all right. All right. In fact, they were good. Yes, whereas the side plot on Yavin with Cassian, I thought that didn't really take us anywhere. The other stuff was actually pretty solid.
The wedding stuff, yes. Absolutely.
The wedding stuff, even the stuff on the farming planet, because it was showing you can't really outrun the Empire, right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the basic human evil. That's when we talked about the assault and that other stuff. It's just that basic human evil, that is no different than anything we've seen in war movies or dystopian movies. It's there, right? Those were solid chunks, right? And I'd give those 3, we'll call it cumulative, like an 85, right? Mostly good.
Yeah, there's more good
the next 3, now you're in the 90s, right?
90s, I agree.
Last I saw that season 2 had like 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
I can double check that.
Far. But these last 3 episodes, I mean, this was like a movie. Like this was and I watched all 3 of them in a row, plus Rebels. So I watched 2 straight hours of Star Wars there, and they were all good. Right, the 3 Andor episodes were fantastic. You're riveted. Yeah, I hit rewind several times just to make sure, the hearing's not the sharpest at times, to make sure I'm getting it. Like my phone was down, I'm glued. And granted, I needed to pause from time to time. Well, I also had to get up a few times, move around because my abdomen was pretty sore. Occasionally, I had to stop and shift, but for 2.5 hours, I was neck deep in Star Wars here, but gritty Star Wars.
So season 2 has a tomato meter of 98% with the critics, 84% for the popcorn meter. What about the top critics though? I want top critics.
Anyway, 98% from the fan vote. That's pretty good.
No, 85% from the fan vote.
What was
98% from the critics?
Well, okay. That's actually pretty solid for Star Wars.
Yeah, it is. So,
and dude, this is some of the best fucking TV I've seen in a long time. Streaming network there, and I've actually been lucky to see some really good stuff, some stuff that really tugged at me recently, but man, these things fired on all cylinders. Yeah, and I didn't feel like a letdown when I was watching the episode of Rebels, mostly because I've watched a lot of Rebels. I've seen the whole series, so I'm comfortable with it. I'm familiar with it, but it made it more, I don't know, it added more. Orman Massacre was. It wasn't just a concept. And now the speech she gave to the Rebel Alliance there had more weight to it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yes, everything, all of it was great. It was all well tied together. It was all exceptionally well done, and I appreciate it wholeheartedly. So, yeah.
So what do you think? We'll see. Best Star Wars we've had in years?
Yes, absolutely. Hands down, best Star Wars we've had in years. So we'll see what the next batch and the final batch has in store for us. Until then, we're those sci-fi guys, everybody. I'm PS McKay. You guys keep dreaming. We'll keep working. It's out there.
And from DT Cavman, up on the high ground. I still have a lot of stitches.
Those Sci-Fi Guys is an independent broadcast by Alpha Site Productions, produced by DT Cavman and PS McKay. Silverman Sound Studios Fiddle-dee-dee is under Creative Commons license. For more information on upcoming episodes, follow PS McKay on X at PS McKay or go to thosesci-fi-guys.com for past episode information. You can now find us on Spotify, so head over there for latest episodes, but don't worry, you can still find us on Apple. We're also on Rumble, and just take a look at YouTube with live video podcasts and Facebook. So be sure to leave a like and a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Thank you.